I'm author CJ Peterson. My partner in crime over here, author Michael Scott Clifton. We're going to be talking about AI. Before we get there, though, Mike, how was your week?
Very busy. Melly and I were at a 3-day Comic-Con, the Arkansas Comic-Con in Little Rock, Arkansas, Friday through Sunday. Mm-hmm. And usually we go to 2-day cons, 3-day cons, just a handful, but very successful con. We sold a lot of books, in fact, I set a personal record on the number of books sold in one day and also for a period. So I was real happy about that.
Congratulations.
And met a lot of new readers and got to meet, of course, as you know, CJ, because you do a lot of these cons as well. Part of the experience of being at Comic-Con is you get to meet other vendors and people like that who are parts of the show, people who are cosplayers, just lots of neat people. And we were fortunate because literally right across from our booth was the booth for William Shatner, Captain Kirk from Star Trek.
Be still my Star Trek heart.
Well, he was like, so we could, I could, just walk 20 feet and there he is. And of course he had a huge line to get his autograph and picture. And the neat thing about him was that he was supposed to have been there Friday night, but we had bad weather, as you know, and his flight kept getting canceled, so he didn't get to the convention center till after 9:00, and the cons was over at 9:00 Friday night. But he stayed for all the fans that had showed up for him. So he got there about 9:30 and was there until after 11:00 until every single fan who had stayed had got his signature and a picture.
That is really cool.
I thought that was pretty neat.
That is very cool.
And I got to say, he looks, Captain Kirk, William Shatner, for a 92-year-old man, he does not look guy looks 20 years younger than 92. So he's got a lot of energy. And like I said, we had a really, really good Comic-Con and really enjoyed that. And then next, a week from this coming weekend, we're going to be in Fort Worth at the Cowtown Comic-Con, and what the Will Rogers. It's not the Coliseum; it's the event center. They've got 3 there. And the one we're at is the Will Rogers Event Center. So that'll be a 2-day con, and Melanie and I will be there. That will be September 30th, which is a Saturday, and October 1st, which is a Sunday. Mm-hmm. And hope to have a good time there as well. And very important, and I want to thank you, CJ, for helping with this. Mm-hmm. My newest book, Pringle Prawn, will go live on September 19th, and that will also be the date at 6:00 on Tuesday, September 19th. We'll have a live book launch.
Can we show the cover?
Sure.
Okay. Let me show the cover. Go ahead and talk to him about it.
So we'll have the live book launch there, and we'll have Jeffrey Lee, Mike Wigington, of course, you, CJ, mm-hmm. Eric Staples, mm-hmm. and who am I missing? I think there's one more. Eric, Jeffrey, Mike, and I'm missing somebody.
You are. Just a second, I can tell you. It is Stone Key.
Gary. Okay, Stone Key. My critique part, one of my critique team. So sorry, Gary, if you're listening. My mind just went blank. It has a tendency to do that from time to time. But everybody will be giving away something, books, ebooks, something. And I'm very excited about Pringle Prawn. I consider it to be one of the best books I've written so far, and I think I've done a pretty good job on most of my books. And as you can see, Pringle is a fairy. Mm-hmm. In her world, they're called prawns. And so Pringle Prawn is a fairy, and it's a fun book. I've got a little bit more humor in this book than I do in than my other books. And also there's a lot of action adventure, a little bit of romance. But it's a fun book. and I've gotten a lot of good vibe back from the critique team and other people have seen the manuscript. So I'm really excited about the book launch.
September 19th, 6 o'clock via YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
And just have to go, and of course we'll advertise that. And all you have to do is just click on the link, and you can be part of that. And again, CJ, very appreciative for you hosting that for me. I very much appreciate that. And
I love launching new books into the world.
So, and I can take on the 19th, CJ, I'll finally be able to take a deep breath because I finally got it done. Live launch, paperback and ebook. So it's been a journey, about a year, I think, since I started writing the book.
Very cool. Congratulations. Super excited for you. Cannot wait to get my hands on it. So my book launched on the 5th, our 5th, Tested by Fire, successful launch. And then we did a book blitz with the Lone Star Lit on Friday with 2 giveaways. And then this is going to air on Wednesday. So it's pre-recorded. So tonight, if you're watching it tomorrow, tonight at 7 o'clock Central Time, I will be on the Voice of Indie podcast with the boys of the Fresh Ink Group, Gary Gies and Beam Weeks, who we've had on here a couple times. Really cool guys. Cannot wait to do that one. And then on Thursday at 11 Central Time, I'm going to be on the Corner Bookstore with Dr. Jacqueline and Diane Floyd Bain regarding Tested by Fire. And they're on the USA Global TV, which you can find on YouTube as well. So super excited about both of those options. Last weekend we did Anime Oklahoma, AOK, and helped run that. That was a wild ride, but it was super fun. Had some great guests, tons of artists and vendors, and oh my gosh, the cosplays were just amazing. So they did great. This weekend we're going to be heading to Lake Jackson for Brazoria Comic Con. We're going to have let's see if I can remember them all this time. I keep forgetting a couple of them. Kevin Sorbo is the big one. He will be there. And then we're going to have Peter Kalamis, which is a really good one. He's voice actor of the original Kid Goku on Dragon Ball Z, as well as he was Master Yoda on the Star Wars Lego movie. I did not know that till the other day. So I'm going to have him do my voicemail on my phone. I'm super excited for. We're also going to have Carla Perez, who's one of the Power Rangers. And then we're also going to have Linda Young, who is one of the Peanuts gang. So everybody knows the Peanuts gang. So that's going to be the fun time we're going to be having. That's going to be Saturday and Sunday this weekend. And then we're going to be moving to OKC. So everything's shutting down on my end and we're shifting over to OKC soon. So super excited about that and starting over and moving forward. So lots of stuff going on. Lots of plates are spinning. But yes, I'm definitely looking forward to a book launch on the 19th of September at 6 p.m. via YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Super excited. But now for what would come today. We had to postpone last week because we were driving to OKC and I did not have reception. So sorry about that. But this week we're talking about AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to give you both sides and let you make the choice for yourself. It's kind of a bit of a big topic going on. There's a little bit of tension on both sides. So, Mike, why don't you start?
So I posted on Facebook, on 3 or 4 different author websites to ask writers, authors, what they thought of AI. And of course, did a little research, about the pros and cons of AI. And with writers, there were 3. The authors' responses basically fell into 3 different categories: those that didn't like AI at all, those that did like AI, and those that were in the middle that liked some aspects of AI, but there were other parts they definitely did not like. And we could probably spend an hour or more instead of just the 20 or 30 minutes we spend on Book World. So to try to encapsulate that, kind of condense and consolidate the different viewpoints. But among authors, those that were opposed to it, the number one reason was they felt like there was a authenticity problem, that creativity was coming from more from AI and less from the author, and that these authors felt that the validity of their work was in question if it was aided by AI. In other words, it wasn't really theirs, or only part of it was theirs, and so the validity of it was something that they were very concerned with, because they just felt like it lacked authenticity.
Well, that is actually a question. Whose intellectual property is it then? Is it the AIs or is it the authors?
I would assume it would be the authors, but that's a good question. I mean, AI has not reached the point now where it's like, it's a burgeoning area, and I'm sure there's going to be some legalities that are going to have to be settled at some time in the future and that's going to be probably question number one. If AI generated the story, or part of a story, or a fraction or a piece of a story, whoever, like say, company that produced the AI program, do they get a piece of that, or is it all the authors? That's actually a pretty good question. That's one of those that'll have lawyers scratching their heads for a while now.
Well, and some other points. When I did the conference in January, we had a gentleman, or in July, who was there, and there were some teachers. Some were like professors in colleges, and they said they caught their students using AI to write their tests, because there's a program that will recognize whether it's AI or whether it's been, pulled from some other thing, copied and pasted, or whether it's actually been written. There's like patterns or something that it looks for, and it caught. Sometimes people turn the whole paper in and it was AI generated, and they were able to catch it.
So plagiarism is one of the cons of AI, because you never know where they're pulling, the AI program, whichever algorithms, whatever they use, you never know where they're pulling that material, that content from.
Which again affects intellectual property.
Exactly. The other view of authors that liked AI, they liked the convenience when they reach a phrase where they don't quite know how to complete a sentence. For example, AI helps them with that. Gives them suggestions that they might use. It helps. Of course, we use Grammarly a lot. I think most people use Grammarly, and I would say, if you go by the strictest sense of the word, Grammarly is kind of an AI product as well, because it will make suggestions on to replace words or even phrases. And I think that aspect of AI, if you consider that to be a true AI generated product, then yeah, a lot of authors like that, and and authors that reach, a writer's block. They hit the wall. Okay, and the AI can help them move past that with, again, suggestions of how to complete, a sentence. And again, it depends on, I guess, the program, but you may give it, with AI. I don't use AI. I do use Grammarly. So I guess I do use AI to a point, but I don't know what the prompts would be with a typical AI program that perhaps an author would use to try to get past the wall, so to speak.
Here's one thing we were talking about. We were talking about Grammarly the other day. You mentioned that one. It's kind of like, it's a tool. But does Grammarly actually replace an editor for copying content editing? I would say absolutely not. So just the same idea as AI is to help you kind of, maybe a slight bounce board, use it as a tool, but don't fully rely on it to write it all.
Well,
because you said it can help with prompts. We did this one thing where he did it up on the screen, and he put one sentence in and generated like 6 paragraphs, like within seconds. So it might kind of help you if you're stuck in a storyline or something. If you want to go that route. Personally, I'd rather sleep on it and let my brain marinate on it. But some people, especially if they're on a deadline, may need something generated a little bit quicker. It just depends, but it should not take place of the human heart and mind. That's my stance on it. But it is a tool, and if used properly. Some of the things that we looked at, it can help teachers generate tests. It can help, like, for example, and on the author side of it, if your stuff is on the AR reading list, you have to create a test for that book. It's like a 10-question multiple choice test, because I've had to do it for multiple books of mine. So it might help you in generating questions regarding a test for a book.
I guess and the thing along that line too, CJ, is that as an author, sometimes you want sentences that are not grammatically correct.
Mhm.
You don't want the comma. You want the emphasis on another word, and technically it's not if you're using an AI generated product, it would be perfect, depending on, again, the parameters of the AI program, the prompts that it's been given. It may always say, well, no, you have to have a grammatically correct sentence, but that's not the sentence that you want. And that's where the creativity comes in. If you deliberately want to say ain't, which is typically flagged, by word or Grammarly as an incorrect word. But if someone lives in an area like the South, for example, or in, you're not to say that people are backwoods that use ain't, but who typically use the word ain't, there you have a perfect example of
fixin' to. I'm fixing to do something.
fixin', fixin'.
That's a southern slang thing. And Grammarly won't appreciate it, and AI probably won't appreciate it. But along that same thing regarding dialect, because there are certain, like you said, certain terms, certain phrases that pertain to different areas, certain accents that come across in the way that the wording is written that AI won't be able to pull up.
No. What it comes down to, and I think this is now and will continue to be an important concern as AI becomes more widespread, is as authors, as writers, how much of what an author or writer produces is theirs, and how much of it is AI's. And I think that's where the issues primarily lie. How much of it is the creative effort of an author or a writer, and how much of it is generated by AI. And there's a certain one thing I have learned, not just in writing, CJ, but in life in general, is that generally, if you have the shortcuts that you take, more often than not, don't work. Shortcuts in life, shortcuts in your personal life, in a job, in the work that you do, more often than not always, more often than not, they just don't work. And AI is a shortcut to creating a written product, be it a scholarly document or a full-fledged novel.
Well, and it doesn't replace the creativity, because how many twists and turns come out of our devious little brains?
Right.
AI can't produce that. The gentleman said that basically AI will produce what you're wanting to read. That doesn't necessarily translate correctly into a reader, what they want to read or what they even think they want to read.
Right.
Like you're watching TV. So there's a certain formula that each TV show generates. Sometimes, you get to the point where you can predict what they're going to do. It's always the first person they interviewed, but they end up going through 6 other people before, and it turns out it's the first one. That happened, I think, in Murder, She Wrote a lot of times. So it's like there are patterns that AI could probably pick up and be able to write the show. But you don't want it predictable as an author. You want your reader on their toes all the time. You want them to not be able to predict. I would rather watch a show I cannot predict, surprised with the twists and the turns that come up. I cannot tell you how many times I've gotten messages, you did not just do that. Yeah, I did. I did do that. So it's like, I love getting those messages, and you can't really get that, I don't think, from an AI. If you had to write the whole thing, again, it's the intellectual property question is number one, first and foremost. But you don't want your book predictable. You don't want it writing what it thinks that the reader wants to read.
No. So real quick, just generally, pros. 2 main ones, and this is just from the brief research and comments I've got from authors. There's 2 main pros to using AI. One is speed of delivery or efficiency. It's a whole lot faster to produce AI generated content than to do it the old-fashioned way by yourself.
Right.
The second is cost.
Mhm.
It costs much less. There's much lower costs and cost efficiency in using AI than something, I hate to say this, done by human hands, human
Mhm.
brain, human mind. Okay. So those are the two main pros, I should say,
Mhm.
for AI: cost efficiency and speed of efficiency.
Or if you're stuck.
Right, right.
So to help you get out of a rut. So it is a tool that you can use that it might take in a direction you didn't think about.
And that's what some of the authors had said, like when they reach like, the dreaded
Could
writer's
they put themselves
yeah,
into a corner,
yeah, yeah.
that sort of thing.
The cons, real quick, we already mentioned one: plagiarism.
Mhm.
Okay, it can create cause plagiarism. I think we also mentioned it can limit creativity. We've already talked about that. One
Intellectual.
thing, right? Another thing is lack of critical thinking.
Mhm.
Less critical thinking and quality of content. Uh, and finally, on a lack of originality.
Mhm.
And of course, I'm sure that if we did more research, we could come up with a longer list for both the pros and the cons. But that's a kind of a quick down and dirty. And for those who don't know what AI is, or or not completely encapsulating what AI is, I looked at a number of different definitions, and real quickly, here is a general definition of AI:
Mhm.
artificial intelligence that uses machine learning to understand, learn, and perform tasks like writing without the need for human assistance.
Mhm.
And so pull that from two or three different sources, but I think that's probably as
And here's the thing.
pretty
The gentleman who I talked to said that the programs do learn from the writer. So they may sort of start to pick up your pace.
Mhm.
To me, they're never going to replace the human brain. Because, like I said, our devious little minds can go in 20,000 different directions. And AI can too, but generally speaking, it's going to maybe more predictable than you'd like it to be.
Right,
So
right.
you can use it as a tool to get yourself out of a hole. But I would not fully rely on it. Just like I would not fully rely on Grammarly. I would not send a book through Grammarly and then just immediately publish it. That's just not what I would do, because I like having two other sets of eyes to read through it and make sure that, this is that and that's that and this is that. Grammarly is great for actual grammar, but there's still some stuff it may miss too.
Well, the writer's strike and the Hollywood, or the writer's strike, which has affected movies and television shows and streaming services. The Writers Guild of America has said that AI threatens their livelihood because it's their companies, producers, studios are using AI to supplant some of the writing that they would get from the WGA, and using that to fill in, for example, why they're on strike. But even if they weren't on strike, their concern is that they're relying more and more on this artificial intelligence, this tool, to produce the scripts, the content of their shows, and which means there's less need for writers.
All I'm going to say is this: I saw that movie. It did not end well. Watch how much control you give to artificial intelligence. That would be my biggest caution, is use it as a tool. Don't fully rely on it. And I totally support the Writers Guild because they make a valid point and they're making it quick. Because I promise you, AI could not have written Stranger Things the way that they wrote it. That's just So don't give up originality for time and predictability. That's, to me, that's a no-brainer. But there are useful tools, useful ways that you can use that particular tool. It is a tool, and it needs to stay a tool. And that's the thing that they need to look at.
Exactly. I guess in a perfect world, AI as we understand it today, and who knows what it'll be like 5, 10, 25 years from now. But
Mhm.
in a perfect world, AI would be a tool, as you say, CJ, to assist a writer, an author in writing, but doesn't supplant the writer or author. It's just a tool, something that you use to finish the task, a task.
Definite. And I'm totally for that. Like I said, we titled it "The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly." There is some good, there is some bad, and there is some downright ugly. But you have to decide. You have to look at all of the different aspects. Don't go in closed-minded either direction. Go in and look at the different aspects, the pluses and the minuses, see if they outweigh it. But again, look at it as a tool. Don't look at it as the only way to do it, or
Right.
look at it as it taking over your writing, because nothing will compete against the human brain as far as I'm concerned regarding stories.
I don't think so, but
Mhm. I mean,
I hope,
that's where I'm at.
I hope not.
Like I said, I saw the movie. It did not end well, so I'm not giving it that much control. Any sci-fi geek knows that you never let artificial intelligence control something totally. That's just not a pretty picture.
So if you haven't done so out there, if you've never read Isaac Asimov's I, Robot, you need to do so before using AI.
Mm-hmm. So thank you guys for joining us again. This was pre-recorded, so if you made comments, please don't think we're ignoring you. It was pre-recorded and launched on its own. Next week, we'll be back live, and we're going to be talking about writing a series versus standalone books. I have multiple of both. Mike has multiple of both. Talk about the pluses and the minuses and kind of see where it lands, because sometimes you just want one book, or sometimes you like to dive into a series, and sometimes you like to dive into a multiple series, which is what I have a couple of those. So we'll talk about it more next week, same time you saw us. Do not forget Mike's book launch on the 19th at 6 o'clock via his YouTube, his LinkedIn, and his Facebook page. So don't miss it. It's going to be tons of fun. We're going to have Mike's going to be there, of course. I'm going to be there. Stone Key's going to be there. Michael Wigington, Jeffrey Lee, and there's one more. Mike?
Oh, yes. Oh, I was just going to say Pringle Prawns on pre-sale right now. The ebook's 99 cents.
Who's the other author?
Oh, so is Eric.
Eric Staples is the other author.
Staples. Yep.
We've had
Sorry.
him on.
I thought you were saying last comment there. No.
No.
But yeah, so let me just push that one more time. Pringle Prawns on pre-sale right now for 99 cents as ebook. Once the book goes live on the 19th at 6 o'clock, it will go up to the normal $3.99 ebook price. So get it in while it's 99 cents.
Mm-hmm. And when the paperback comes out, how much is it going to be?
$12.99.
Awesome. In the meantime, Tested by Fire is still 99 cents on Kindle. Get it while you can on that one. And I believe the print book is $12.95, $13.95, I believe. But they are all available. Just go to my website under the standalone books. It's the very top book, and it has all links. You choose from whichever one you so desire. It's on iTunes, Kindle, Nook, and Kobo for ebooks. And paperback is Barnes & Noble and Amazon. So we'll catch you next week. In the meantime, there's multiple interviews for me. I have one tonight with the boys of Fresh Ink Group at 7 o'clock Central Time. And then I have tomorrow, if you're watching this then, tomorrow at 11 o'clock Central Time on The Corner Bookstore with Dr. Jacqueline and Diane Floyd Bain on the USA Global TV on YouTube. So don't miss it. We'll catch you guys next week at 1 o'clock.